What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I saw a video Justin did this past week, and I was like, that's a pretty damn good idea. I think I'd like to do that as well. So he covered 8 of the best fragrances from 8 different fragrance brands. Best meaning your favorite, you know, because it's a very subjective thing. I went with 10. When I say best, I mean my favorite, because the best to you may not be the best to me. Because again, very subjective thing. I mean, even with he and I with same said brand, we're probably not going to have the same best fragrance each time. You know what I mean? So I've got 10, some niche, some designer, but to me, in my opinion, and if you have a similar taste to me, you may agree, this is the best fragrance from each of 10 different fragrance brands. Let's dive into it. Stay tuned. Starting with a consensus favorite from most. Now, you may say a particular flanker of this fragrance is the best. And the reason I'm going to argue against it is because without this one, that one wouldn't exist. From Prada, what I think is the best from the brand, Prada L'homme. What I was referring to was Prada L'homme Intense. I get it. Prada L'homme Intense is amazing. Prada L'homme Low. I actually wear more than this one, but the respect needs to be thrown on this one. Because this is one of the safest iris fragrances money could buy in history, and it's a synthetic iris. It's not the natural earthy type of iris smell, but it is that makeup bag powdered stuff that has become so popular over the last several years because a lot of people have their designer iris fragrance favorites, and mix it with some soapiness. The lavender neroli combo, the way Prada does soapy florals is second to none. They're the best at it. They just are. Insert name of brand, doesn't matter, high-end luxury niche, on down. Nobody does soapy the way Prada does. And you get some peppered spice. I mean, there's a little bit of cardamom in here as well as a touch of sweetness. It really is a more nuanced fragrance than it's ever gotten credit for. At least I think so. And another thing I've always noticed that never really gets credit for is its performance. Maybe it's just me. But this is an 8 to 10 hour fragrance in longevity on my skin. And it's actually really strong for like 2 hours. Like it can be too much if you overspray this one. I know you heavy sprayers like to think I'm crazy. That's because you've wore your nose out. So you have to spray heavy to smell it these days because you just wear yourself out. So your sensitivity level has changed with your nose. Whereas this is, 5 sprays to 7 sprays is potent on me. I think anything beyond might just be a bit too much personally because this stuff is stout on my skin. It's all the first couple times I wore it, I was very surprised that I wasn't hearing, a lot of people talk about the strength of it. While I wouldn't call it a beast, it's far from an average performing fragrance. But iconic DNA, made some great flankers. Yeah, they've got several other great lines. Their amber fragrances, of course, the Luna Rossa line's incredible. But they've got their fusion line, all that good stuff. But to me, the best of the house, Prada L'homme. Now this next one, it's mainly a nostalgia play for me because this replicates very well an all-time Mount Rushmore great to me in Tommy by Tommy Hilfiger. It's from Montale. I think their best fragrance is Fougeres Marine. I mean, it's pretty similar. Early on, it's kind of a dead ringer because it's based around a freshwater accord and some oak moss. It's a chypre. It's a fresh chypre, if you will. And it's a very spicy oak moss. So when you mix it with a freshwater accord, it turns it from an earthy, dry spice to a very fresh, bright, spicy fragrance. You get a little bit of citrus and musk and such, but if you've ever tried Tommy by Tommy Hilfiger and wish it was a stronger fragrance, you should try this. It's very, very close. It is an aquatic. It's also a chypre, an aquatic, fresh chypre. Very special fragrance, in my opinion. This is the stuff of legend. While a lot of people would pick different fragrances because, again, best just comes down to what your favorite is. If I could only keep one of my, 16, 17, 18 bottles or so, roughly, of Montale fragrances, if I only keep one, it's going to be niche Tommy Hilfiger, basically, is what it is. So, to me, if you like Tommy, you owe it to yourself to try. Because for me, the best from Montale, Fougeres Marine. Now, I've got another rather controversial pick here. because most people aren't going to agree, especially if you've never smelled this one. I've only recently got this one. And it went from, we're talking Nishane, by the way. It went from me saying it would be anywhere between Ani and perhaps Nef's and Wulong Cha, because I just love the wearability of Wulong Cha. But Nef's is special. You know, they got some really good stuff. Salt and Vetiver. Man, does Nishane have some great fragrances. But for me, Nishane's Safran Colognise is the specialist of the special. Oh my God. This is one of the best fragrances I've picked up this year. If you haven't tried this, you won't understand why I'm saying it's the best of the house. It has that Colognise DNA. A lot of people would be familiar with that one. Fresh, clean, green, citrusy, a little white floral, dries into an earthy vetiver. Very two-stage, tale of two fragrances, if you will. You have that core here, dries into that earthy vetiver, but it's a warm weather leather. I always like that little rhyming phrase because the saffron here makes it a warm, bright citrus. It's a warm citrus opening with a distinctive suede leather accord. You get that green core. This is magnificence in a bottle. You can get it for less than $100. I don't know if it's in stock in the link below. I did pick it up from Fragrance Buy. I will have them linked down below. I didn't check before doing the video. For any of you that enjoy leather fragrances and you don't really have a lot of leather fragrances to wear in high heat, this solves it. At the same time, you like leather, but there's times of the year when it's cooler and milder outside, but you still want some freshness, some bright citrus. Again, this is a year-round fragrance. This is pretty good quality. I wouldn't call it the top tier of niche, but I would say it's, you know, several cuts above designer, and it's in that designer price range. Checks too many boxes for me to not be the best of the house. Nishane Safran Colognise. We're talking Versace. No, I didn't pick an Eros fragrance. No, I did not. I think a lot of people can agree. Eros fans won't. Oud Noir fans won't. I mean, everybody's got their picks. But to me, the most well-rounded fragrance that gets compliments, lasts, smells good, has high-level versatility would be Dylan Blue. I think Dylan Blue is the best fragrance they've put out for men ever. The one thing I would love to see that they've never done is flanker Dylan Blue. Dylan Blue is a flanker. It's a flanker to Versace signature, Versace Pour Homme, which some could argue is the best. Because without that, wouldn't have this. This is a flanker of it. Just like I said with Prada L'homme, I gave the original its due before a flanker, whereas I think the flanker is better in this situation. Love Versace Pour Homme, but not as much as this. This adds so many elements. It's a rich amber, woody, aquatic with a little bit of smokiness, a hint of spice, some bright citrus. It's got the shower gel aquatic tie-in. It's easy to nose blind too. Some people that'll tell you it's weak or maybe they reformulated it. It's a nose fatigue thing. It's a highly chemically synthetic fragrance. I go nose blind to it every time I wear it. I always have. You'll think it's weak, and then 3-4 hours after you think it's long gone, somebody might mention how you smell. It's happened to me more than once with this fragrance. That's when I realized I get severe nose fatigue out of this. And I did not like this fragrance at first. I did not at all. I thought people were wild. How could y'all think this is great? How does this get compliments? What is everyone talking about? I think this is terrible. That was my take the first 2 or 3 times. Then it started to grow on, it's not that bad. It's getting better. So I kept giving it chances. By the 5th or 6th time, I sprayed it because I had one of those little mini bottles and I put it in a decant bottle so I could spray it. Those little mini bottles are dabber style. Next thing you know, I'm buying a bottle. And I got a nice little dent. It's around there. For having 2,000 plus fragrances, dents in bottles are hard to come by. This is one that if you've never given it a shot, give it a shot. And even if you're not a big fan right away, this one might have to be a grower, not a shower for you. You know what I mean? You might have to give it a few shots, because I sure did. If I'd have just gave it 2 or 3 chances, this would not be what I'm discussing here today, because I kept going back to it because it kept getting better and better. Now I think it's one of the greatest blue fragrances of all time. And in my opinion, Versace's best fragrance, Dylan Blue. As I go through them, I think a lot of my picks are going to be controversial for people. Because, again, it's what I believe to be the best. Because this is not going to be everybody's pick from Xerjoff. Any of you that watched my live stream with Justin, who inspired this video in the first place. The last time we did a live stream on his channel, we ranked our Xerjoff fragrances. This is one of his top and my actual top, Mefisto. In the vein of Silver Mountain Water from Creed, but I think it's superior, and here's why. This is more about a powdered fresh floral tone without the herbal tones of tea that you get in Silver Mountain Water. It's not an inky type of fragrance. It has that sharp, metallic, citric, aquatic smell. It does still have that. Powdered florals from rose and iris, and it's not too feminine floral. And sharp but clean musk, because again, it's very metallic, so the musk is on the sharper side, through and through. Very fresh, super enjoyable and likable, high compliment factor, good performer, a fresh fragrance that can be worn year-round, signature scent worthy type of stuff. It's just immaculate. It's just immaculate. I even prefer it to its Gentle Womo flanker, which is even fresher, even more aquatic. A lot of people really prefer that one. To me, Mefisto, 100%. I gave you my reasons, and we're moving on from here. You may not agree, but boy, do I love this fragrance. Xerjoff's Mefisto. Now, I'm not going to say a word about any of Dior's private line fragrances, because I don't own them. I've smelled a few of them, and there's some good ones. But, because I know some of you would pick certain things from their private line, I enjoy more of their mid-level designer stuff. And to me, the peak of their mid-level designer stuff has always been Dior Homme Parfum. This is the old 75 ml bottle. I've heard the 100 mls are basically the same thing, but this is an iris masterpiece. This is a leather fragrance masterpiece. It's technically categorized as a leather fragrance, even though we talk about the iris facets to it. It's more focused around the leather, a little bit of rose. There's a hint of oud here. It dries into a totally different fragrance, from dark and animalic and a little rough to a smooth, creamy sandalwood base. It lightens the fragrance up. It goes from very dark to more blonde woods. And it is so good. And it's a monster. I can wear 2 sprays of this, and it's crazy strong off of me. Last time I wore it was just 2 sprays. I've always done 4 sprays, and it's an absolute, nightmare of a performer. It's wild at 4 sprays on my skin. And 2 sprays, I don't feel like there was much of a drop-off. You can damn sure smell me really freaking easy when I wear this, even at 2 sprays. This bottle's going to last, God knows how. I've had it for years, and that's the dent. It takes time, because I only wear it really in the cooler weather because it's a heavier fragrance. Oh, but is it pure magnificence. This is an absolute masterpiece. I don't throw that word around on too many fragrances, maybe 2 or 3 handfuls of fragrances I'll say that about. This is definitely one of them, one of my 5 favorites in my collection. I think it's the peak of iris, even though it's not the most natural iris smell. It's that synthetic iris. Higher quality synthetic iris, don't get me wrong, but it's just special. It's not going to be for everyone. A lot of people prefer Dior Homme Intense, and that's all good in the hood. I like Dior Homme Intense too, but for me, it can't hold a candle to this. I think this is the best they've done, personally. Dior Homme Parfum. So, this house in particular, Kajal Perfumes, is loaded with a few different things. 1, gorgeous bottles. 2, super high quality oils. They use quality materials. And the majority of their fragrances aren't going to remind you of anything else. I mean, exceptions to the rule would be stuff like Kajal 3, kind of in that Tigar, Suspiro, Vibrato family. They're all like similar styles without being exactly the same. Kajal Ferris kind of smells like Niche Sauvage. But outside of those 2, you sure about that? It smells like something, you know what I mean? Like the really original stuff. And this is the peak to me. A lot of people will agree. Lamar is their best work. They have a Lamar Noir flanker that is the newest coming. I will get eventually. Now this is pineapple juicy fruit at the top. Nothing like Aventus. Let me state that first and foremost. When the word pineapple comes out in this fragrance world, you have to say if it is or is not like Aventus, because everyone associates it with Aventus. Oh, pineapple, it must smell like Aventus. No. So, marigold, rose. Very distinctive floral core to this one. Toffee, woods. I believe there's a touch of ambroxan here. It's got this fruity floral. It's a masculine fruity floral, which you don't see too often, with a pretty dominant sweet woody tone in the base. It's a warm but sweet woody tone. This is some classy, elegant stuff. This is next level. This is raise an eyebrow type of stuff when people smell you because it's out of the norm. It's not the typical profile they're going to expect to smell on you. This is truly stepping your game up. Something like this. This ain't the kind of stuff that, the average person is used to smelling because they're used to, approachable designers from Macy's. Whereas I wouldn't call this a challenge, but it's a clear-cut step up in your fragrance wardrobe. I mean, a big step in many ways when you're used to like the blues and aquatics and spicy, sweet tonka beans, all that stuff of the designer world. You start getting into something like this, you're classing the place up. You know what I mean? This is a front of the shelf kind of fragrance. It doesn't have to be special occasion. It can be worn with a t-shirt. It's not over the top dressy, but even in a t-shirt, I don't know, it gives a different impression. This is more of a respect garner when it comes to profiles. It's so good. And for all of those reasons, I think it's hands down their best option because they have some challenging stuff, they have some easy to wear stuff, but as far as impactful, it's the best of the bunch. Lamar from Kajal Perfumes, I think, is their best release. A lot of people would agree with this from Mont Blanc. There's an argument for a few different ones, but I think the favoritism goes to this one. It's probably their most sold fragrance ever. It is their spin on Aventus. Speaking of Aventus, Explorer. Some of you saw it coming as soon as I said Mont Blanc. I don't even know if I'm going to put it in. I might put it in the thumbnail. I didn't make the thumbnail yet. It's good. It's clearly not Aventus, but it's clearly they were going for Aventus at the same time. Does that make sense? Like, this is what they were trying to walk the path of without it being Aventus. Because it's not the same accords. You don't get pineapple and all that good stuff, but you get this dark, inky, fruity tone. You get bright bergamot citrus, a little bit of ambroxan. It's got this leathery smell, even though they don't list any leather accords, akigala wood and stuff like that. It does give a little bit of a leathery facet to it. Aventus doesn't have leather listed, but it has a leathery smell, most batches. It's really good. It's well versatile. It's very well versed in getting compliments as well. Wife's a big fan of this one personally. I know a lot of people deem this a compliment magnet, and in my experience, yeah, that's a fair assessment. I'm not going to say it's gotten me top tier, elite tier compliments, but it's gotten a few here and there for me outside of the wife. Nothing's because I don't wear it all that much. I mean, I could say that for 95% of the fragrances I have because I just have over the top way too many fragrances. They're points of reference at this point. It's just once in a while I reach for something and I might not touch it again for God knows how long. Doesn't mean I don't like it. I just have too much. I always got new stuff I'm testing. The blessing and the curse of what I do. And this, it is good stuff. I was a little skeptical at first because I didn't understand the hype, and I still don't think it's some perfection 10 out of 10 kind of thing the way some people treat it. But again, it's an opinionated thing because here I am saying it's the best release from the brand while I'm also saying I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I know that may sound a little contradictory, but not everything that's the best of a brand is a 10 out of 10. I've only ever given 2 10 out of 10s in all the fragrance content I've made, so if you haven't tried this, you're missing out. It's safe to say. I think until further notice, this is the best fragrance from Mont Blanc. It's Explorer. Now, enough about Aventus-like fragrances. Creed's best fragrance, my opinion, not Aventus. Aventus Cologne. Some people cheered, some people booed just now. I don't care. If I could only keep one of my Creed bottles, it's this. And I've recently added 3 new bottles to the collection this year. I've finally got around to getting Original Vetiver, Himalaya, and Viking Cologne. There was a time when I would say Viking was my favorite and Aventus was my number 2. I had already tried this. I hadn't spent enough time with it. I had a sample. And the more you spend time with this, the more I don't understand how you couldn't pick it as one of the best, if not the best. And to me, the best. It takes a lot of the great things about Aventus with its original masculine profile, but it changes the fruitiness. It removes the dark, smoky elements. It keeps the musk. It adds a little bit of fresh spice. I believe there's some ginger in here, pink pepper, stuff like that. The citrus is different. It's not over the top fruity, but you got orange instead of just bergamot and things like that. It's just a better fragrance. It's fresher. I think it works in even more situations. Yes, Aventus can be done with everything. It's super versatile, but this is even more versatile. Bonus points from me if you're super versatile. I want fragrances that I have more opportunity to wear because I'm very situational and seasonal. So if I deem you good for everything, there's a really good chance I'm going to keep going back to you. Speaking on fragrances, that's just the way I operate. Not everybody's the way I am. That is the way I am. If you've never tried this, you won't agree. You won't. And some of you will fight the power as best you can and say, nope, Aventus is the greatest of all time. Nothing ever, 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 ever will be best. It's the best fragrance of all time. It's the king. How dare you defame my king? Batch number this. I paid $900 for this batch. It's so cool. All right. You like Aventus. I like Aventus too. But to me, Creed's best fragrance, Aventus Cologne. Last but not least, another Mount Rushmore fragrance for me. I saved in some ways kind of the best for last because of all the 10 that I mentioned here. This one had a big impact through my life. And this is the fragrance that made me realize just how much I'm into fragrance in the early 2000s. So I've always been into it, but the light bulb didn't really come on to realize just how much until Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue came out. This is like my 4th bottle over time. I've had this one for years at this point. I got it on clearance at a Marshall's when I was in Texas a few years back. And I go back to it. It's a 40 ml, but you know, got a dent. I go back to it. It's a nostalgia play for sure. This one came out in 05? I think 05. I always forget. This is one of the greatest things I've ever smelled in my life. I thought this was the greatest thing since sliced bread when it came out. I tell this story all the time over the years. My uncle got it way before I did. First time I smelled it, my uncle had got it when it came out, and I loved it. Every time I would go over, I'd steal sprays. I got a gift set that Christmas. Fell in love with it. A lot of people would agree, especially guys my age. All-time great compliment getter. Women love the way this smells. Still. And people go, oh, but it don't perform. It's so watered down. I don't want to spend $30 and not get 12 hours. Bro, I bought a 200 ml for $55, but I only get 4 hours. Just spray it again. You know, it's that good. Sometimes it's more about the experience. Sure, do you want the experience to last longer? I'm with you on that. The sweet spot for me is 6 to 8 hours. If everything could last at least 6 to 8 hours on me, I'd be a happy camper. Sometimes they get 3 to 5. This falls around 4 to 5 hours for me. I'm cool with it. For about 4 to 5 hours, I smell better than everyone, in my opinion. My wife agrees. Big fan of this one. It's worth having, especially if you like getting the flankers. I still think it's the best one. I think it's better than every flanker they've put out. Yeah, the Intense is a stronger version. It's a true Intense version of this, and if you want the performance, go that route. Out in the air, it's a stronger version of this. Up close, it's crazy synthetic and salty compared to this. But I think it's an all-time great. Not just Dolce & Gabbana's best fragrance for men, which not everybody's going to agree with, but to me, one of the 4 best fragrances ever, because it's on my Mount Rushmore. Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. Well, that was a longer video for 10 fragrances because there's story time that comes with some of these picks, because I got to give you my full reason. I got to give you the rundown on why, because there's a lot of disagreements going to happen with this. And it's okay, because it's an art form. We all interpret it differently. We have different tastes. It is what it is. By all means, for each brand, don't tell me I'm wrong, because I ain't wrong. I ain't right, you ain't right. I ain't wrong, you ain't wrong. We just like different things. But with that said, my point, comment down below. What's your favorite from each of these brands? You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, bro, you're way out. It ain't got to be all that, man. Just tell me, oh, man, you know, I like that one, or I don't like that one as much. For me, it would be, let me coach you up on how to comment. You know what I mean? It don't have to be an argument kind of thing. We can have a great debate down in the comments. I like it. If you like it, I love it. You ever heard that term before? So I appreciate you guys for watching and sticking the whole way through. For those of you that did make it to the end, again, I want to know, what's your favorite Creed? What's your favorite Dior? What's your favorite Xerjoff? How about Dylan Blue? You with me or not? It's all good. Keep it respectful. I'll keep it light. You keep it light. It'll be a good old time down in the comments. Until next time, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. And I will say this. If you get any of these, you give them a shot. You just, for me, you give them a try. You give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.